Have you ever been in a moment where everything just felt uncertain, where fear tried to creep in, and your mind started asking, what is going to happen next? You know, we're living in times where anxiety is high, awareness feels low, and the enemy is working overtime to shake our confidence in God. But you know what? Today's word is simple, and it's powerful. Hold on. Not to your situation, not to your emotions, but hold on to Jesus, because when everything around you feels unstable, God is still unshakable. Stay with me today for this encouraging study. Hold on. We'll be right back. And thank you for joining today for this week's episode of Living Hope Today. You know, I'm honored that you have tuned in this week because I have a very special message of hope to share with you. Kind of as we navigate through the trials and storms that we often face in everyday life, which can be overwhelming. So I hope you'll just stay right where you are. But before we begin, can I ask you to be sure to hit the like, follow, and subscribe buttons below? This would be such an encouragement that it would help us as you're watching today. And if you enjoyed today's broadcast, I'll also hit that share button, this episode on there. Someone you feel might need to maybe hear this encouraging word today. So I trust you'll hit the share button. And I thank you for being a partner with us. I want you to listen today as we tackle the subject I've entitled, Hold On. And I think this verse that's coming up here perfectly sets when we face times of uncertainty and fear, that God is always there for us. Look at this and listen to what God says on this very familiar verse you've probably read a bunch of times. Listen to what it says. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee. Yea, I will help thee. Yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. You know something there? God never said trouble wouldn't come, but he did say, I am with you. I will strengthen you. I will help you, and I will uphold you. Well, that means while you're trying to hold on, God is actually holding you. And this is vital to understand. There is a battle that's going on right now for your focus. You know, the enemy's strategy hasn't changed. And according to 1 Peter 5:8, we've heard that. He's like a roaring lion, not always attacking physically, but sometimes intimidating us mentally, because he wants to shift your focus from faith to fear. He wants to push you into kind of a self-reliance mode. He wants you to believe God won't come through this time. But I want you to hear this clearly. Fear is a distraction, while faith is a decision. That's why we read in 2 Timothy 1:7, it reminds us of this. God has not given us this spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. So, when fear shows up, that's your cue to hold on tighter to Jesus. Well, how do we hold on? First, I believe we need to hold on to God's presence. And Matthew 28 says, I am with you always. And understand that you are never walking through uncertainty alone. Second thing, my mom has talked to me a lot about this. Hold on to God's promises. You know, in Hebrews 10, we read this, hold fast, for he is faithful that promised. You know, God's promises are not fragile. They are instead faithful. And the third thing I'd like to remind you of is to hold on instead of leaning on yourself or someone else. You know, In Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, that familiar verse, it says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. You know, when life doesn't make sense, don't let go of God to grab onto your own logic, your own thinking. I can think of biblical examples when holding on paid off. I think of Peter walking on the water. We read that in Matthew 14. And Peter stepped out in faith onto the water. But when he saw the wind, he saw the waves rising and stirring beneath him, he took his eyes off of Jesus because he became afraid. And at that moment, he began to sink. So what really happened? Well, the moment he shifted his eyes from Jesus to the storm, he started sinking. But here's the good news. Jesus immediately reached out and caught him. Even when your grip sometimes gets worse and weak, well, his grip never does. I can think of another great example that you are probably familiar with, and that's Daniel in the lion's den. We read about that in Daniel 6. You know, Daniel refused to let fear dictate his faith in Christ. He held on to God, even when it meant bringing and being thrown into the lion's den. And what did God do? He shut the mouths of the lions. They never attacked him. They never went after him. They did not touch him. And God can step into your situation and with power. And as you hold on to Jesus in uncertain times, don't just endure. Instead, live with purpose. Live with a conviction. You know, in Romans 12:9, we read this. Let love be genuine. Abhor what is evil, and hold fast to what is good. Did you catch that? Hold fast. Hold on to what is good. You know, yes, in a world that we live in with fear and negativity and uncertainty, you are called to cling to what is right and to what is true, to what should reflect the heart of God. So while the enemy is trying to pull you into fear, God is calling you to hold on to what is good. And what is better, what is stronger, what is more secure than Jesus himself? He holds on to us. We need to hold on to him. I trust you'll do that in these days that we're going through, because I'll tell you, it's getting worse. And we need to hold on to Jesus more and more and rely on him. I want to thank you for joining us today. I trust you'll make plans to join me again next Thursday for another episode of Living Hope Today. Until then, may the Lord bless and keep you.
Thank you for joining us for Living Hope Today. If you have any questions, have a prayer request, or just want to connect with us, here are some ways you can reach us. We would love to hear from you. We trust you will be sure to like, subscribe, and friend us on either our Facebook page or YouTube channel. Be sure to join us next week at this same time for another episode of Living Hope Today.